3 months after the Battle of Talon 4, the galaxy was different. Not in obvious ways, perhaps, but in the way people thought. In the way they looked at the humans they passed in corridors. In the way they reconsidered everything they thought they knew. Admiral Hyun stood before the Galactic Council to give his formal report. The chamber was packed. Every species wanted to hear the human military commander explain what had happened. Some were grateful. Some were afraid. All were curious. "We did not want this," Hyun began, his voice calm and measured. "For over a century we have pursued peace. We built diplomatic ships, not warships. We sent teachers and scientists, not soldiers. Because we remember what war cost us. We remember the billions who died on Earth during our own conflicts." He paused, letting that sink in. Billions. Most species could not even imagine casualties on that scale. "But peace requires protection," he continued. "We learned that the hard way. When the Korthax attacked Talon 4, they attacked civilians, families, children. We had a choice. We could follow our policy of non-interference and let 40,000 innocents die. Or we could act." A counselor from the Methrin Coalition spoke up. "Some say your response was excessive, that you could have negotiated." Hyun's expression hardened. The Korthax gave the colonists 6 hours to surrender or die. We arrived with 1 hour remaining. There was no time for negotiation. There was only time for action. "But your military capabilities," pressed another counselor. "You have hidden them from us. Your ships are far more advanced than anything else in the galaxy. Your soldiers can fight in conditions that would kill our troops. Why did you not tell us?" "We did tell you," Hyun replied. "Everything about our capabilities was in our admission files when we joined the Council 200 years ago. Our planetary data, our military specifications, our weapons technology. It was all there. You chose not to look at it closely because we were peaceful, and you assumed peaceful meant weak." He was right. The Council members had to admit it. The data had always been available. They had just never bothered to really understand it. "The question you should be asking," Hyun said, "is not why we hid our strength. The question is why we chose not to use it. For 100 years we had the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, and we did nothing with it. We could have conquered. We could have demanded tribute. We could have forced everyone to follow our rules. But we did not. We chose friendship instead. That should tell you more about us than one battle ever could." The chamber was silent. Then the Vrelian ambassador stood, all 4 of his arms spread in a gesture of respect. "It tells us that humans are the best of us. You have the power of predators and the hearts of caregivers. The galaxy is fortunate to have you as friends," not everyone agreed. Some species were frightened. If humans could destroy the Korthax fleet so easily, what was to stop them from doing the same to anyone else? Fear and gratitude made uncomfortable neighbors in the council chambers. But Captain Taiyang was not at the council. He was back on Talon 4, helping with reconstruction. His ship, the Harmony's Promise, sat in orbit. Its cargo holds full of building materials and farming equipment. The colony needed to be rebuilt, and humans were good at building. He worked alongside the Vrelian colonists, helping to clear debris and reconstruct homes. It was simple labor, but it mattered. A young Vrelian named Kelix worked next to him, moving rubble. "Captain," Kelix said hesitantly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are all humans like you? Kind and helpful?" Taeyang smiled. "Most of us, yes. We try to be. But I saw the battle recordings. The soldiers who came to save us. They were so scary. So powerful." "Yes," Taeyang acknowledged. "They are. But scary and kind are not opposites. They are the same people. Corporal Inha, who led the first rescue team. She volunteers at a children's hospital back on Earth. Field medic Junho writes poetry. Sergeant Nari teaches dance classes." Kelix looked confused. "How can warriors be poets and dancers?" "Because being strong does not mean you have to be cruel. Because knowing how to fight does not mean you want to fight. We train our soldiers in combat, yes, but we also train them in compassion, in ethics, in why violence should always be the last choice, never the first." He moved a large piece of concrete, his muscles barely straining under the weight. To him it was light. To Kelix it would have been impossible to move. But Taiyang did not show off his strength. He just used it to help. "My grandmother told me something when I was young," Taiyang continued. "She said that being dangerous is easy. Any fool can learn to hurt others. But being dangerous and choosing not to hurt, that takes strength. Real strength. On Earth, changes were happening. The Ghost Fleet could not go back to sleep now. The galaxy knew about it. More importantly, the galaxy needed it. Pirate attacks had dropped by 90%. Warlords who had been threatening border worlds suddenly became peaceful. Just knowing that humans might respond was enough to deter most threats. Fleet Commander Daewon oversaw the reorganization. 3 dreadnoughts would remain on active patrol, rotating through the galaxy's regions. The rest would return to standby status, ready but not deployed. It was a compromise between peace and security. "We are not going to be the galaxy's police force," Daewon told his officers. "We will respond to genuine emergencies. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. But we will not interfere in legitimate conflicts or political disputes. We are protectors, not conquerors." Captain Jinho and the Eternal Vigil became the flagship of the new Galactic Protection Initiative. It was a joint force combining human ships with vessels from other species. The humans provided the heavy firepower and advanced technology. The other species provided local knowledge and diplomatic skills. It was not perfect. There were tensions. Some species resented human dominance. Others became too dependent on human protection. But it was better than the alternative. Better than letting warlords and pirates terrorize innocent people. Sergeant Nari found herself in an unexpected role. The Galactic Military Academy asked her to teach combat tactics. She agreed, but with conditions. She would not just teach fighting. She would teach why to fight and, more importantly, when not to fight. Her first class had students from 12 different species. They looked at her with a mix of fear and admiration. She was famous now, the sergeant who captured a warlord single-handedly, but when she spoke, her voice was gentle. "The first rule of human combat doctrine," she said, "is this. Every fight you avoid is a fight you win. Because fighting should never be about pride or glory. It should only be about protecting those who cannot protect themselves." A student, a young Talaxan named Rexus, raised a tentacle. "But Sergeant, you are clearly superior fighters. Why avoid combat when you know you will win?" "Because winning a fight still means someone got hurt," Nari replied. "Maybe the enemy. Maybe civilians caught in the crossfire. Maybe your own soul, having to live with what you did. Every use of violence has a cost, even when necessary. Never forget that cost." She showed them footage from Talon 4. Not the battle, but the aftermath. The injured. The traumatized children. The destroyed homes. "This is what war looks like when you win," she said quietly. "People still suffer. People still lose everything. We saved these colonists, yes, but we could not save them from fear. From trauma, from loss. That is why we try so hard to prevent wars in the first place." The students were quiet, thinking. Rexus raised his tentacle again. "So when do you fight?" "When you have no choice," Nari said simply. "When innocent people will die if you do not act. When all other options have failed. And even then you use only the force necessary. No more." Back on Talon 4, the memorial was completed. It was beautiful. Designed by both humans and Vrelians working together. A tall spire of crystal that caught the light and split it into rainbows. Engraved on it were the names of the 847 Vrelians who had died before the human fleet arrived. Those they could not save. At the dedication ceremony, Ambassador Yuna spoke to the assembled crowd. Thousands of colonists attended, along with human soldiers and diplomats. "We were not fast enough," she said, her voice breaking. 847 people died because we were 14 hours away instead of 0 hours away. We will carry that with us always." An elderly Vrelian named Tarek stepped forward. He had lost his entire family in the attack. Everyone expected him to be angry at the humans for not arriving sooner. Instead, he put his wing around Yuna's shoulders. "You saved my neighbors," he said. "You saved my friends. You risked your lives for people you had never met. 847 died, yes, but 39,153 lived because of you. Do not dishonor the dead by forgetting the living you saved." Yuna cried then, and it was okay. Humans were allowed to cry. It did not make them weak. Terex cried too. So did many others. They cried together, humans and Vrelians mourning the lost and celebrating the saved. The memorial bore a simple inscription in both languages. "To those who answered when we called." Humanity heard and came. The Korthax Dominion surrendered formally 3 months after the battle. Their remaining leadership agreed to return all conquered territories, pay reparations, and submit to Galactic Council oversight. Warlord Krexith was tried for war crimes. The trial was fair by human standards. Human Marines unstoppable and efficient, taking control of Korthak's warships without killing in. The bunker doors on Talon 4 opened slowly. The Vrelian colonists had heard the weapons fire stop, but they were afraid to hope, afraid that when they emerged, they would see Korthak soldiers waiting to kill them. Instead, they saw human dropships landing in the smoking ruins of their colony. Gentle anti-gravity fields lowered the craft onto scorched ground. The ramps opened and humans came out. A little Vrelian girl named Sela peeked out from behind her father's legs. She had been told stories about humans, the gentle giants who came from the scary planet. But she had never seen one before. The human walking toward them was wearing armor, but the helmet was off. She looked kind, tired but kind. "Hello there," said Corporal Inha, kneeling down to be at eye level with Sela. "My name is Inha. You are safe now. The bad people are gone." Sela's father, a farmer named Trevix, could not speak. He just stared at the human, at the soldiers behind her, at the dropship still landing. You came," he finally managed. "We thought no one would come in time." "We came as fast as we could," Inha said softly. "I am sorry we could not get here sooner." "Are you hurt? Is anyone hurt?" The colonists started coming out of the bunkers then, thousands of them, scared and confused but alive. Human medics moved through the crowd, scanning for injuries. They moved with practiced efficiency but gentle hands, careful not to frighten anyone. Field medic Junho found an elderly Vrelian who had been hit by falling debris. Her wing was broken and she was in pain. On Earth, a broken bone was not a big emergency, but for Vrelians it was serious. Their hollow bones were fragile. "I am going to help you," Junho said, already preparing his medical kit. "This will hurt a little, but then you will feel better. I promise." He worked for 36 hours straight. The colony had limited medical facilities and many people were hurt. Not from weapons. The Korthaks had not begun the bombardment yet, but from the panic, from people running and falling and being crushed in the crowds trying to reach the shelters. Junho treated them all. When his supplies ran low, he called for more. When he was too tired to stand, he sat down and kept working. Other medics did the same. They had come all this way. They were not going to let anyone die from a treatable injury. Lieutenant Sujin organized the relief efforts. Food, water, temporary shelters. The human ships had brought supplies, more supplies than should have been able to fit in their cargo holds. But humans were good at packing efficiently. Within hours, the colonists had hot food and clean water. An older colonist named Vexar approached Sujin with tears in his 4 eyes. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you come? We are nothing to you. Just farmers on a distant world." Sujin looked confused by the question. "You called for help. That is enough. But you could have died. Your soldiers could have died fighting for us." "Yes," Sujin agreed simply. "But you needed help. So we came." Vexar did not understand. He had lived a long life, seen many species, and he had never heard of anyone risking so much for strangers. But then he had never met humans before. Not really. He had met diplomats and scientists. Now he was meeting the other kind of human, the ones who answered when you screamed. Across the galaxy, the footage was spreading. Every major news network, every social media platform, every communication channel was showing the same thing. Battle recordings from the Korthak ships, sensor logs from nearby stations, video taken by the colonists themselves. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as human warships moved in ways that should not be possible. As human weapons tore through shields and armor that had seemed invincible. As human Marines boarded enemy ships and took them over without killing anyone. But what really shocked everyone was the after footage. Humans helping children out of rubble, humans sharing their food, humans working themselves to exhaustion to save alien lives. Warriors who had just destroyed a fleet now sitting in the dirt, holding frightened Vrelian children and telling them stories to help them calm down. Dr. Hana was summoned to the Galactic Council headquarters. She had been studying alien species for 15 years, but now the aliens wanted to study humans. The Council's xenobiology team had questions. Many questions. "We do not understand," said the lead xenobiologist, a mantis-like creature named Zilith. "Your military capabilities are extraordinary. Your soldiers can function in environments that would kill our best troops. Your ships can accelerate at forces that would liquefy our crews. How?" Hana pulled up Earth's planetary data on the main screen, data that had been in the archives for centuries but never really examined. This is Earth, our homeworld. Class 12 Deathworld rating. The xenobiologists looked at the data. Really looked at it for the first time. Gravity 1.2 standard. That alone would crush most species over time. Atmospheric oxygen at 21%, so high it was nearly flammable. Temperature swings of 50 degrees or more between day and night in some regions. Weather patterns that spawned hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis. And this is just the baseline, Hana continued. This does not include the predators. Earth has thousands of predator species. When humans evolved, we were prey. We had to learn to run faster, think smarter, cooperate better, or we died. For millions of years, if you were not good enough, you got eaten. Zilith made a clicking sound of distress. Your entire evolution was a survival trial. Yes, and we almost did not make it. Many times humans nearly went extinct. Disease, climate change, predators, competition with other human species. We survived by being adaptable, by being tough, by never giving up. But you are so gentle, protested another xenobiologist. Human diplomats are known for their patience and kindness. Hana smiled sadly. Because we know what violence costs. We nearly destroyed ourselves with it. When we finally reached the stars, we promised to be better. And we are. But being peaceful does not mean being weak. It means we choose not to use our strength unless we have to. She changed the display to show footage from the battle at Talon 4. When the Korthax attacked civilians, we had to. Not because we wanted to fight. Because innocent people were dying. The Council xenobiologists watched the footage again with new understanding. They saw human pilots pulling maneuvers at 40G, forces that would kill them in seconds, and surviving because their bodies were built for a high-gravity world. They saw human soldiers fighting in atmosphere that was poisoned to most species and not even noticing because Earth's air had trained their lungs to be efficient. They saw armor that could absorb plasma fire because humans had studied every hostile environment on their planet and learned to protect against everything. They saw weapons that used simple kinetic force because humans understood physics at a level born from throwing rocks at predators for 1,000,000 years. You are not warriors, Zilith said slowly, understanding dawning. You are survivors. There is a difference. Yes, Hana agreed. Warriors seek battle. Survivors avoid it if possible. But when cornered, they fight with everything they have. Because for us, fighting was never about glory. It was about living to see tomorrow. At the Galactic Council's main chamber, an emergency session was called. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss what had happened. The Vrelian ambassador stood to speak, his voice shaking with emotion. For 2 centuries, we have called humans our friends. We thought we knew them. We were wrong. We knew half of them. We knew the scientists and artists and diplomats. We did not know the protectors, the ones who came when we screamed. He played footage from Talon 4. Not battle footage this time, but the aftermath. A human soldier named Inha sitting with a group of children, teaching them a game to help them forget their fear. A medic named Junho falling asleep against a wall after 36 hours of straight work, his hands still stained with alien blood from the lives he had saved. A pilot named Su-Jin crying as she handed out food to hungry families, apologizing for not arriving sooner. They could have killed every Korthax in that fleet, the Vrelian ambassador said. Their weapons are clearly superior. Instead, they captured them, arrested them. They treated wounded Korthax soldiers the same as wounded Vrelians, because to humans, all life matters. Ambassador Yuna watched from Earth via holographic projection. She felt strange, proud of her people but also sad. Sad that it had come to this, that the galaxy had to see humans as weapons before they could see humans as heroes. The Korthax Dominion, what was left of it, was in chaos. Their fleet was shattered. Their warlord was in human custody. Ships that had fled the battle brought news of the defeat, and the Korthax leaders could not believe it. Humans, soft, weak humans, had destroyed their finest fleet, but the evidence was undeniable. The battle recordings showed everything. The Korthax had thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They had been wrong. They were not even close. In his cell aboard the Eternal Vigil, Warlord Krexith sat in silence. He replayed the moment in his mind over and over. The human sergeant walking toward him, his plasma cannon firing, the shots doing nothing, her hand crushing his weapon like it was made of soft clay. A guard came to bring him food. It was human food, simple but nutritious. Protein, vegetables, water. The guard set it down carefully. making sure Krexith could reach it despite the suppression cuffs. "Why do you feed me?" Krexith asked. "I would have killed you all." The Korthax were not concerned when their sensors detected the approaching fleet. Warlord Krexith looked at the display and felt only amusement. 12 ships? Against his 47 warships? It was barely worth his attention. "Identify them," he ordered his sensor operator. "Human vessels, Warlord. Reading is military class, but small. Their largest ship is only 2 kilometers long." Krexith laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. His species stood over 7 feet tall, covered in thick scales with muscles that could bend steel. They had conquered a dozen worlds through pure strength and superior firepower. These humans thought they could challenge him. "Open a channel to them," he said. "Let me tell these prey friends to run home." Around Talon 4, the Korthax fleet maintained their blockade. Every few minutes they fired warning shots at the planet's surface, destroying empty buildings to remind the colonists what would happen if they refused to surrender. The Vrelian colonists huddled in bunkers and shelters, holding their children, praying for rescue they knew would not come in time. The human fleet dropped out of warp space at the edge of the system, 14 hours after leaving Earth. They should have been exhausted from the journey, their ships damaged from pushing the drive so hard. Instead, every vessel came in hot and ready, weapons already charging, shields at maximum. Captain Jinho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil and looked at the enemy fleet for the first time. They were massive, blocky ships covered in weapon ports and thick armor, intimidating. But Jinho had been raised on Earth, where the ocean could swallow ships whole and storms could flatten cities. He was not easily intimidated. All ships battle formation Delta 7, commanded Fleet Commander Day 1 from his flagship. Cruisers spread wide, dreadnoughts center line, support ships behind. The human fleet moved with precision that made the Korthax sensor operators blink in confusion. Ships that large should not be able to move that smoothly, that quickly. The formation was perfect within seconds. Then the communication channel opened. Warlord Krexith's ugly face appeared on every human screen. He smiled, showing too many teeth. "Attention, human fleet. This system is claimed by the Korthax Dominion. The planet below has refused to surrender. They will be punished. You are advised to retreat or you will share their fate." Fleet Commander Day 1 did not smile back. His face was cold, his voice colder. "This is the Human Defense Fleet. You have attacked civilians under our protection. You have one opportunity to withdraw. You will not receive a second warning," Krexith laughed again. "You dare threaten me? You have 12 ships. I have 47. Leave now, prey friends, before I decide to add Earth to my conquest list." Daywin's response was one word: "No." "Then die." The Korthax fleet opened fire. 47 warships unleashing their weapons at once should have been the end of any battle. Plasma cannons that could melt through meters of armor lit up space like a sun-going nova. Missile swarms that numbered in the thousands screamed toward the human ships. The human barrier shields caught everything. Not deflected, caught. The plasma splashed against invisible walls and accomplished exactly nothing. The missiles detonated harmlessly against fields that did not even flicker. On the Korthax flagship, alarms started blaring. "Warlord, their shields are not dropping. Damage assessment shows 0 effect." Krexith stared at his screens in disbelief. That was impossible. His weapons could crack planets. How were these small ships just ignoring them? Then the humans fired back. Railguns had been Earth technology for 2 centuries, but the humans had improved them in ways the galaxy had never imagined. Tungsten slugs accelerated to 0.3% of light speed, carrying kinetic energy that made nuclear weapons look gentle. 12 dreadnoughts firing in perfect synchronization. The first salvo hit 3 Korthax cruisers. The slugs went through their shields like the shields were not there, punched through their armor like it was paper, and came out the other side still going. The cruisers exploded, torn apart from the inside. "Evasive maneuvers," screamed Krexith. "Return fire!" "Kill them." The Korthax fleet tried to scatter, but they were huge and slow compared to what came next. The human cruisers accelerated, and physics should have made it impossible. 40 gravities of acceleration would turn any living being into paste against the back wall. But humans had evolved on a high-gravity world, and their bodies could take punishment that would kill anyone else. Tactical Officer Minji pulled her ship through a turn that registered at 40 G. She felt the pressure, felt her vision start to tunnel, but her body adapted. The gravity compensation fields in her chair helped. But mostly it was just human. She had trained in worse. Targeting solution locked, she reported, her voice steady despite the forces trying to crush her. Firing. The Eternal Vigil put 3 more Korthax ships into scrap metal. Around the battlefield, the other human ships did the same. The Korthax fleet was learning a terrible lesson. Speed matters more than size, and humans were very, very fast. On the Korthax flagship, panic was setting in. Warlord, we've lost 8 ships. Their weapons are punching through everything, and their ships are moving at speeds that should kill their crews. Krexith watched a human cruiser dodge a full weapons barrage from 5 of his ships at once. It moved like a dancer, like it was not a 200,000-ton warship but a fighter craft. Impossible. Everything about these humans was impossible. Prepare boarding parties, he ordered. If we cannot destroy them at range, we will take their ships in close combat. Our soldiers are the finest warriors in the galaxy. No soft species can stand against us. It was the worst decision he would ever make. Captain Sunho of the assault carrier Typhoon's Fist received the order he had been waiting for. All Marines, prepare for boarding action. Target the enemy flagships. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. Staff Sergeant Nari checked her armor one last time. Around her, her company of shock troops did the same. They were quiet, focused. They had trained for years, but this was real. Real enemies. Real danger? Listen up, she said to her troops. The enemy thinks we are weak because we choose peace. They think our kindness is weakness. Let's educate them. The boarding pods launched. Small, fast armored shells that shot across the space between ships like bullets. Korthax point defense systems tried to shoot them down. Most missed. The pods were too small, too fast, too well shielded. They hit 3 Korthax flagships almost simultaneously. The pods punched through the outer hulls like nails through wood, penetrated deep into the ships and deployed their cargo. The Korthax soldiers waiting inside expected easy prey. They outnumbered the humans 5-1. They were bigger, stronger, bred for war. Their homeworld was high gravity compared to most species, making them naturally powerful. Then the humans came out of the pods, and the Korthax realized they had made a mistake. Human combat armor was not bulky like Korthax armor. It was sleek, flexible, covered in sensors and reactive systems. Inside that armor, Sergeant Nari moved like water, her weapon already firing. The Korthax soldiers shot back, their plasma rifles powerful enough to blow holes in starship hulls. The shots hit Nari's armor and bounced. The adaptive shields absorbed the energy, converted it, bled it off as heat. She kept moving, kept firing. Her weapon was a railgun too, smaller than the ship-mounted ones but still devastating. Each shot went through a Korthax soldier's armor and dropped them instantly. Not killed but stunned, paralyzed by the neural shock. Non-lethal protocols only, she barked at her team. We are not murderers. The Korthax could not understand it. The humans were faster than them, more accurate. They moved through the corridors of the Korthax ships like they owned them, adapting to the heavy gravity and toxic atmosphere without slowing down. When Korthax soldiers tried to fight hand-to-hand, confident in their size and strength, they discovered something terrifying. Humans were strong too, and humans knew how to fight. Private Junho grabbed a Korthax soldier by the arm, a creature twice his size, and threw him into a wall using leverage and technique that made strength irrelevant. Corporal Inha dodged a blade strike and put her opponent down with a strike to a nerve cluster she had memorized from the briefing materials. The humans moved like they had been fighting their whole lives. Because on Earth, everything fought. Everything had to know how to survive. Sergeant Nari reached the command deck of the Korthax flagship. Warlord Krexith stood there, 7 feet of scaled muscle, holding a plasma cannon that could blow through a tank. He aimed it at her chest and fired. The shot hit her armor. The shields flared bright, and Nari kept walking toward him like nothing had happened. You will surrender your ship, she said calmly. Your crew will be treated according to galactic law. You will stand trial for your war crimes. You have 10 seconds to comply. Krexith roared and fired again, and again. Each shot was perfect, dead center mass. Each shot accomplished nothing. Nari was 3 meters away now. 2 meters. 1 meter. She reached out with one armored hand and grabbed his weapon. Crushed it. The metal crumpled like paper in her grip. Then she grabbed Krexith himself by his combat harness and lifted him off the ground. Time's up, she said, and locked suppression cuffs on his wrists. You are under arrest. Across the battlefield, the same scene was playing out on 2 other flagships. The distress signal screamed across space like a knife cutting through silk. It was not the polite emergency beacon that ships used when they had mechanical problems. This was raw terror, transmitted on every frequency at once, burning through the quantum communication network with desperate power. Ambassador Yuna was in her quarters when the alert woke her. The time display said 3:47 in the morning, Vrelian Standard Time. She grabbed her communicator and activated it. What she heard made her blood turn to ice. "This is Talon 4 colony. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Unknown hostile forces have destroyed our orbital platforms. They are targeting the surface. We have 40,000 civilians here. Please, anyone, we need help." The voice broke with static, then came back. "They're firing on the evacuation centers. Oh God, they're killing everyone. Please, if anyone can hear this." The signal cut off. Then it came back, different voice, younger, crying. "Mom said to send this. The ships are so big, they're burning everything. Please help us, please. I'm scared." Yuna was already moving, throwing on her uniform, her hands shaking. She knew Talon 4. She had visited it twice. It was a farming colony. Mostly families, lots of children. Artists and teachers and farmers. People who had never hurt anyone. She reached the embassy communication center in 4 minutes, faster than she had ever moved before. The duty officer looked pale, all 4 of his Vrelian arms trembling. "Ambassador, the attack started 20 minutes ago. The colony defense ships tried to fight. They're all gone. Destroyed in the first wave." "Who's attacking them?" Yuna demanded. "Korthax Dominion, ma'am. 3 of their war fleets. The colonists don't stand a chance." Yuna knew about the Korthax. Everyone did, but they had always stayed at the edge of known space, too far away to matter. They were predators, big and mean, but surely they wouldn't attack a council world. There would be consequences. There were rules. But Talon 4 was burning, and rules did not stop plasma cannons. She opened a secure channel to the Vrelian High Command. The military commander who appeared on the screen looked defeated already. "Ambassador Yuna, I assume you heard." "What are you doing to help them?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "We've sent every ship we have in the region. They'll arrive in 11 hours. He paused. "The Korthax commander has given the colony 6 hours to surrender. If they refuse, he will bombard the planet from orbit. Kill everyone." 11 hours is too late. "I know." The Vrelian commander looked ancient, all his feathers drooping. "We've sent requests to the Talaxan Union and the Methrin Coalition. Their nearest ships are days away. We've already lost 3 colonies to these monsters. This will be the 4th. Yuna felt something cold settle in her chest. It was a feeling she had read about but never experienced. Her grandmother had told her about it once. It was the feeling humans got when someone hurt their family, when peace was not enough anymore. "How many ships do the Korthax have at Talon 4? She asked quietly. 47 warships. Each one is 5 kilometers long. "Ambassador, I know what you're thinking, but send me everything you have on Korthax military capabilities. Everything. I need it in 5 minutes." She closed the channel before he could argue. Then she opened another channel, one she had been given 12 years ago when she first became an ambassador. She had been told to only use it in the most extreme emergency, a code that had not been transmitted in over a century. The quantum encryption took 30 seconds to establish. Then Admiral Hyun's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired, but he was already in uniform. He had been woken by the same alert system. "Ambassador Yuna, I've been listening to the broadcasts." "Sir, they're killing children." Her voice cracked. 40,000 people, and more than half are families. The Vrelian fleet can't get there in time. No one can get there in time. Hyun's face was stone. "What are you requesting, Ambassador?" Yuna took a deep breath. She spoke the words that would change everything. "Emergency Protocol Omega Red. Humanity's children scream." There was silence. Hyun stared at her through the screen, and she saw something shift in his eyes. "Something old and cold and dangerous." "Confirmed," he said. "Omega Red is active. Stand by." The channel closed. Yuna sat down because her legs would not hold her anymore. She had just done it. She had just woken the Ghost Fleet. On Earth, in the command center beneath the Pacific, alarms started blaring. Not the gentle chimes of normal alerts. These were harsh, loud, urgent. Lights that had not turned red in over a century blazed to life across massive wall displays. Admiral Hyun strode into the Fleet Operations Center. Every officer there snapped to attention. They all knew what the alarms meant. They had trained for this moment their whole careers, never expecting it to actually happen. Begin activation sequence for the first response fleet, Hyun ordered. His voice was calm, but it carried through the whole room. I want 12 dreadnoughts, 34 heavy cruisers, and full support elements ready for combat deployment in 1 hour. Sir, full activation will take at least 6 hours, protested the operations commander. We need to power up the cores. Load weapons, recall crews. You have 1 hour, Hyun repeated. 40,000 civilians are dying right now. We don't have 6 hours. The commander swallowed hard. Yes, sir. 1 hour. Across the Sol system, ancient machines began to wake. Shipyards that had been building merchant vessels suddenly redirected all power to military berths. Fortress stations that had drifted in maintenance mode fired up fusion reactors that could power small cities. And beyond Neptune, in the cold dark where the Ghost Fleet waited, something stirred. Captain Jinho was asleep in his quarters when the activation alert hit. He had been dreaming about his family, about his daughter's 5th birthday party next month. The alarm yanked him awake, and for a second, he did not understand what he was hearing. Then his training took over. He was dressed and running for the bridge in under a minute. All around him, the eternal vigil was coming to life. Lights blazed in corridors that had been dim for years. The deep thrumming of the main engine starting up made the deck vibrate under his feet. He reached the bridge and took his command chair. Around him, his officers were doing the same, moving with practiced speed despite the shock. None of them had ever done this for real. They had run the simulations 1,000 times, but simulations were not real. Status! Jinho barked. Tactical Officer Minji looked up from her console. Main weapons charging. Shields at 40% and rising. Drive core at 60%. Sir, what's happening? We're going to war, Jinho said simply. After 100 years of peace, someone decided to attack civilians. On his screen, a message appeared from Fleet Command. It showed a planet, Talon 4, and a countdown timer. 5 hours and 33 minutes. That was how long the civilians had before bombardment began. It also showed their current location and the target location, the distance between them. The message was clear. Get there. Save them. Jinho looked at his crew. Young faces, most of them. They had joined the military for the benefits, for the training, for the adventure. They had never expected to actually fight. But he saw no fear in their eyes. Only determination. All ships report ready, said the communications officer. Admiral Hyun is addressing the fleet. Hyun's face appeared on every screen in every ship. Thousands of sailors and soldiers saw him at once. Crew of the First Response Fleet, 104 years ago we made a promise to never fight again unless we had no choice. Today we have no choice. Today the innocent are dying, and we are the only ones who can stop it. Today we show the galaxy why Earth is a death world, not because we love violence, but because we will do violence to defend the defenseless. All ships jump on my mark. The countdown appeared. 10 seconds. Jinho gripped his chair. 5 seconds. Around him, reality began to bend. 0. The Ghost Fleet vanished from the Sol system like smoke and wind. 12 dreadnoughts and their escorts moving faster than any ships in the galaxy had a right to move, pushing their drives beyond safety limits because every second mattered. 6 days of travel at maximum speed. The humans would do it in 14 hours. Not because it was safe, because it was necessary. Humanity was awake, and humanity was angry. The stars belonged to everyone now. At least that was what the Galactic Council liked to say. 247 years had passed since humans first left their planet and joined the great community of alien species. 247 years of peace, trade, and friendship. Captain Taiyang stood on the bridge of his ship, the Harmony's Promise, and watched a nebula drift past the window. It glowed purple and blue like paint mixing in water. Beautiful. He had been traveling the stars for 15 years now, and the beauty never got old. "Captain, we're approaching the Vrelian trade station," said Dr. Hanna from her console. She was his chief science officer and had been with him since the beginning. Her job was to study alien cultures and help humans understand their new friends better. "Good. Send them our greeting," Taeyang replied with a smile. The Vrelians were a peaceful species. They looked like tall birds with 4 arms and soft, colorful feathers. They loved art and music. Trading with them was always pleasant. The Harmony's Promise was not a warship. It carried no weapons except basic defense shields. It was built for exploration and diplomacy. That was what humans did now. They explored, they learned, they made friends. The old days of fighting were over. Earth had almost destroyed itself once. The devastation wars had killed billions of people and turned whole continents into wasteland. Humans had looked at what they had done to each other and decided never again. When they finally built ships that could travel faster than light, they made a promise. They would be different. They would be peaceful. The galaxy had been surprised. When human ships first arrived, the aliens had been afraid. They had scanned Earth from far away and saw a nightmare planet. High gravity that would crush most species. An atmosphere so thick with oxygen it was almost poisonous. Oceans that could swallow continents. Weather that spawned storms bigger than most planets. And worst of all, predators everywhere. Big ones with teeth and claws. Small ones with venom and stingers. Even the plants could kill you on Earth. The Galactic Council had a rating system for planets. Class 1 was paradise, safe and gentle. Class 12 was a death world, the worst possible rating. Earth was Class 12, nothing else even came close. When the Council first saw Earth, they expected humans to be monsters. Brutal killers who survived by being the scariest thing on their scary planet. But then the humans came out of their ships and they were nice. They smiled. They shook hands, or whatever the alien equivalent was. They brought gifts. They asked questions. They seemed genuinely happy to meet new people. Yes, they were strong. Yes, they could survive in environments that would kill others. But they didn't use that strength to hurt anyone. They used it to help. After a few decades, the galaxy relaxed. Humans were just another species. A bit weird, maybe. They could eat things that were poison to others. They could survive injuries that should be fatal. They healed fast and moved fast and seemed to never get tired. But they were friendly, so nobody worried about it anymore. The Vrelian trade station grew larger in the window. It was a beautiful structure, all curves and artistic designs, function mixed with beauty, the Vrelian way. Taeyang had visited it a dozen times before. He was looking forward to trying their new tea blend. The Vrelians made excellent tea. "Docking in 5 minutes," reported Lieutenant Sujin from navigation. She was young but skilled, and she loved this job as much as Taeyang did. Space was full of wonders, and they got to see them all. Back on Earth, in the massive military complex buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Hyun was reviewing fleet readiness reports. It was a job that felt pointless most days. The fleet hadn't fought in over a century. The ships sat in their berths, maintained but never used. The soldiers trained but never deployed. The Ghost Fleet, they called it. 47 dreadnoughts that waited in the darkness beyond Neptune, powered down to minimal systems, crewed by skeleton teams that rotated every 6 months. Nobody expected them to ever wake up. They were insurance, nothing more. A reminder of old days that everyone wanted to forget. Hyun was old enough to remember the last deployment. He had been a young lieutenant then, serving on a cruiser during a rescue mission to save a colony from a reactor meltdown. That had been the last time human warships left the Sol system with their weapons ready, 104 years ago. He looked at the reports and signed them without really reading. Everything was green. Everything was always green. The ships were ready for a war that would never come. The soldiers were trained for battles they would never fight. Peace was good, Hyun reminded himself. Peace was what they had fought for. The fact that his job was boring meant they had succeeded. In the Vrelian home system, Ambassador Yuna was attending a cultural festival. She wore traditional Vrelian honor scarves and tried to learn one of their ceremonial dances. She was terrible at it, which made the Vrelians laugh in their musical way. They appreciated the effort more than the result. Yuna loved her job. She had always wanted to bring people together, and now she brought entire species together. The Vrelians trusted humans. They called them the gentle giants because humans were so much stronger, but so careful with that strength. Vrelian children played with human diplomats without fear. It was beautiful. The galaxy had 3 major federations. The Vrelian Compact was the largest, made up of peaceful species who valued art and philosophy. The Talaxan Union focused on science and discovery. The Methrin Coalition was the smallest, mostly traders and explorers. Humans belonged to all 3 in different ways. They were the bridge species, the ones everyone trusted. And far away, at the edge of known space, the Korthax Dominion was planning. They were predators, big and strong and hungry. They had watched the peaceful federations grow fat and lazy. They had counted ships and measured weapons. They had found the federations weak. The Korthax did not know about Earth. They had never bothered to look at human history. They saw humans as just another soft species, playing at peace in a dangerous universe. They were about to learn a terrible truth. But for now, Captain Taeyang sipped Vrelian tea and talked about poetry. Ambassador Yuna danced badly and laughed with her friends. Admiral Huon signed reports and thought about retirement. The galaxy was at peace. The quiet would not last much longer.